This lake is going to be insane in years to come.
Where there's one, there is definitely more on here. Yes!
I've got tape, mate, I've got tape. The Zig is away, the Zig is away!
Yes! Got him! Yeah, man. Also, yeah. What an absolute lump of coal.
Yeah!
Oh, he's a special person.
Put my name on the waiting list now.
Rob, you know you're barred.
The fight, man, was outrageous.
After a year of negotiations, Embryo has finally signed the lease on this amazing 30-acre lake in the heart of the Cotswold Water Park. Now there are carp in here, but the stock is largely unknown. So Darryl and I are here to test fish it, see what swims around in here and position some swims. So in a few weeks' time, when the syndicate opens, the anglers have got somewhere to fish from and they actually know what's swimming around in here. Now location is the most important part of any carp fishing session, and there is no one better at it than Darryl. In true Darryl style, he's got here before me, he's already found the mother lode, so we're going to find some spots to fish from and see what swims in this amazing lake. Just look at this place. Islands, reed-lined bays and a lake bed with more ups and downs than an egg box. Carp lakes don't get much better than this. We're told by the locals there are about 200 fish stocked at different times over the last 10 years. The word on the grapevine says there's a large head of 20-pounders with a handful of 30s.
There, everyone.
Yeah.
See it?
Yeah, I saw it, yeah. Yeah, straight out in front of here. Well, what swim you going in then?
The one you don't go in, mate.
With the fish still where Darryl found them, the next challenge was actually finding areas that we could fish from. One thing we didn't plan for was the lack of swims. Fortunately for us, one of the local residents has been mowing a footpath 3/4 of the way round the lake for dog walkers to use. Otherwise, getting round this place would have been a nightmare. Right, having surveyed the scene, you got here first, you put the effort in. I know the drone found them, not you. But I think it's only fair you choose where you want to go because you were here first.
That's pressure, that is. I was hoping you was going to
No,
go.
normally you're breathing down my neck to know where I want to go so that you can get on them.
Yeah.
If you were going to come down and fish this now, no me, no camera crew, you'd slot into one of them little holes, wouldn't you?
Yeah, probably, yeah. Yeah, just
No, probably about it. I know you better than you know yourself, mate. You'd have rods out already. You'd have two in the net by now, wouldn't you?
But now I've got the option. I don't know which one of these I would pick, you know, because do I want to go there, where we were jumping this morning, or do I want to fish under my tips down here where I think they're going to be during the day?
It's a nice problem to have, bruv, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, based on what I saw yesterday, I think I got a fish down here somewhere.
Yeah.
Based on, I know they were jumping further out there, but yeah, I think I'll probably drop in there then, in the corner, fish close in.
And just as I'd predicted, Pecky was wasting no time in setting up and had 3 singles on 3 different spots before I'd even chosen a swim.
So yesterday, I saw a lot of fish at the furthest end of the lake. It was up the tree, you could see them, and they were all in this area, so it was the obvious place to start. This morning when Dan arrived, we had a look round. I showed him the positions that you could get to the water's edge around where the fish are, and he said I could choose first, so I decided to come into the furthest corner because that's a take. Go on the koi. Absolute ripper on the right hand rod. It's probably the shallowest of all the 3. and it's took off. It feels like, considering like they're mainly small fish in here, it feels like a good one. Really, really, really pulling. It's gone right round the corner and it's in the reeds by the look of it. I'm just going to try and ease it through. As long as it's moving, it's good. It's good. Right, it's just in the weed, I think. There's been a big old koi hanging around out here. I'm wondering if it's that. Really fighting. Absolutely having it. It's a common. Get in there. Boosh. Come on. The fight, man, was outrageous. Oh.
It is 23:12.
Yeah, man. So, look at the fish's head. Really nice.
Really clean.
It's actually quite dark when you pick it up.
Yeah.
Nice. Top result. Top result. I want to get my rods out. I'll tell you what, spinning around the other way. Let's have a couple of shots at the other side. Yeah, nice. On the yellow pop-up.
Yes, mate, on those no-name goo that you gave me earlier.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. No bait round it.
No, I wasn't like convinced with the spot straight away, so I just thought it's so clear they'll be able to see the yellow pop up on its own.
Yeah. And the right-hand rod, yeah, so closest to the bank.
Yeah, probably 3 or 4 rod lengths off the reeds. As
Yeah.
close as I could get a drop, really.
Nice. Yeah, nice carp that. Really
Good.
nice. Good start. Really good start.
Lovely.
It's cool, this sort of fishing, but it's certainly knackering. I started over there because the fish were showing there when we first got here this morning. Put the casts out, they went down lovely, really good drops. You know, it's obviously clear out there where the fish were showing, which is good for tonight if I wanted to fish over there. But I saw fish showing against the reeds over here, and you know, after seeing a couple show and then a couple more, you know, wind blowing into the reeds with the sun out, you know, is an ideal place. It's obviously shallower water. I'm guessing it's probably 12 foot deep over there. So after only being out in the water probably an hour or something like that, I wound them both in, and what I did was, before I wind them in, I do this on every single time I wind in, I just tighten the line up as much as I can, get it out of the marginal weed, tighten it up as much as I can, flick it off the lake bed and wind it back in and see how much weed is round the hook. And on both cases there was next to nothing. The second rod absolutely zero, and the first just a little bit of Canadian. And the other thing was, both baits weren't touched by the crays. We know the crays are really bad in here. I'm guessing it's when you put bait out in open water and you fish all night that they're going to be a problem. But I'm following Daryl's lead on the hook baits. I was doing that anyway, just a couple of yellow pop-ups, both IBs. One's got the no-name goo on it and the other one's got the isotonic. His bite came on no-name, so that's a good sign. Round here there are so many fish showing, it's just unbelievable. So I've flicked 2 out now. The left-hand rod's gone really tight to the reeds. I overcast a little bit, so I just pulled it back a bit towards me before it hit the bottom and dropped it down. It's not that deep there, I'm guessing about 8 foot, something like that. And then the right-hand rod, I had a couple of casts on that one. The first one went a little bit too far, to be honest. So I put it back in, put it out again, not quite so close to the reeds because I didn't want one line sitting over the top of the other. And that went down with a nice drop as well. So it seems to be pretty good out there, and with the amount of fish showing, hopefully it won't be long before a bite. I'm surprised it hasn't gone already, to be honest, but As you can see, I've done loads of work behind me clearing the swim. I used this tool that Mark Bryant brought down for us to clear the reeds that are a little bit further out, and then the old trusty pair of shears for getting this stuff and just opening the swim up. This is definitely going to be a swim. You know, once the syndicate opens, I'm sure that this will be a swim, and you know, we'll see how it goes. If I need it to be wider, you know, to get out and get a better angle on the fish and net them more easily, then I will do. But for now, it's a couple of pop-ups amongst the fish, and we'll see how we go.
After that first fish went back, the fish seemed to move higher in the water with the midday sun. I decided to add a little bit of bait to my spots, whilst being super careful not to make too much disturbance. I used half boilies for this. They make less of a splash and they sink slowly, settling on top of the weed. However, after introducing this bait, I started to notice fish jumping past the island much further up the lake. I didn't waste any time here. I opted to go straight after them. Once I'd relocated to this position, I cast an 8-foot zig to where I had seen the fish. The other 2 rods were fished with single pop-ups cast onto a road that I'd located via Google Earth.
Come in, Dan, come in.
Go ahead, Mr. Peck, what do you know?
I'm very, very sunburnt. Think I fish like a fool all day, but yeah, always seem to be one step behind them.
Right, the fishing bit you're forgiven for. The sunburn bit you are not forgiven for. You know, we're supposed to be setting an example, bruv. I've had my lotion on all day, I've been covered up. But like you, mate, yeah, I don't feel like I've made anything like enough of the opportunity, but I have tried as hard as I can try, and I know a lot more now than I knew when I got here this morning.
Yeah, roger that. I think I don't even want to say how much of an opportunity that was with all those fish down there today. I really feel like if we'd had zigs out from the get-go, we'd have definitely caught some more fish. I think the casting, looking for drops, and just, yeah, the general not doing it right has pushed them out of the area.
Yeah, I agree with you, mate. I mean, I didn't take many casts to put my rods out when I got round to this second spot, and they still carried on showing over the top of me after I'd put the rods out, and it sort of quietened down in the middle of the day, and then they started again. But by that point I'd already committed to finding a proper spot because I want to put some bait in before I go to bed tonight. So I must have had 30 odd casts with a marker rod with just a lead on the end, you know, just one of the probe leads, and I wasn't getting good drops anywhere really. Close to the reeds where I'd been fishing, the first couple of casts I'd done in a day were the best drops there, but still weren't clear. And like I say, I cast around far too much, but you've got to do it, haven't you, to actually interrogate the swim and find out what's worth fishing on.
I've got tape, mate, I've got tape. The zig's away, the zig is away.
He's a special person.
Yeah, boy! If you wanna be my lover, you gotta get on the zig. Zigging is so easy with an anti-tangle sleeve. If you wanna be my lover, you gotta get on the zig. Zigging is so easy when you're on the go. That was even better, wasn't it? When you're in the go. That one's for you, Al. Love you. Well, that effort for moving one last time, just for a couple of hours before dark, has paid off. I don't know how fighting here. Bosh! Get in there. Come on. Look at that. Nice one. Well, The perfect end to the first day. Had chased and chased and chased. Probably got it wrong more than we got it right. But in the end, the result was good. 24-pound mirror, 8-foot zig. I'm not exactly sure how deep it is out there, but pretty deep. I'd say at least 12 foot. And if we'd had them on early, I'm sure we definitely would have caught some more. Lovely. Well, pulled it out of the bag right at the death, haven't we? And now one of the single pop-ups has had a take. Literally, it's just getting dark now. There's on Google Earth, if you look at it, exactly where I'm fishing, there's a road that goes all the way across the lake. And I saw 3 or 4 fish top in the same sort of spot, maybe 50 to 60 yards out, directly on that road. So I just freestyled, cut the rigs out onto it, got drops, but they weren't proper gravel drops. You know, there's definitely some weed out there. Sort of went down firmish, heavily weeded at the start of the fight, really heavy, but pretty heavy pressure. I'm using heavy tackle, got 15-pound line on, 15-pound carp line, 0.4, size 4 wide gate X's, so I can pull pretty hard. Bush. Get in there, laddie. Well, I did think I'd already done my end of the day. Finished off with a lovely 24-pounder. And then just as I was about to wind in, because I'm not going to fish at night, you know, I want to get a good night's sleep and start fresh again tomorrow, one of the single pop-ups rattled off. This little thing, lovely, lovely little fish, covered in scales, absolutely pristine. Seba?
I topped up the area just after dark with the plan of attracting fish back in with no lines in the water. I was up at first light scanning the area for activity before I put the rods out. Not fishing at night makes you more inclined to move in the morning if a better opportunity presents itself.
.30 AM on day 2. Didn't fish last night. Great ending to the first day yesterday. Went to bed about 10 o'clock, woke up at 5, had my breakfast, cup of coffee, just started looking. Obviously went straight back to where we caught the fish last night. Didn't see anything there, moved down to the next gap and saw one straight away there. But then since then it's been really quiet. I've done I reckon I'm 3/4 of the way round from where we slept last night, and some of it is not the easiest barrier terrain. You know, it was. I would have gone the other way if I'd known it was that bad, but I'm still none the wiser exactly where they are. This is where they were yesterday evening. Saw one there this morning, so this is why I'm looking here now. But there's not enough activity. It seems like I'm reluctant to get my gear out. Basically, I'm hoping that when the sun comes out, they sort of show themselves a bit more actively, and I can make the right decision. It is only 28 acres this lake, 30 acres, but it seems a lot bigger. I don't know why that is. It's a big 28 acres, 30 acres. It just feels quite vast. But I'm sure once the sun burns through, they will give the game away, and location is the name of the game.
It was just too hot to live in waders, So the plan was to walk back with the fish on, slip my trainers off and step into the waders so I could get into the edge to net it. Having a game plan before it roars off will massively increase your chances of landing every fish. Oh, it's come off. Has it? No. Right. Got to go down there. Well, this has led me a proper merry dance. So pleased to get a bite off the baited area though. Saw one show out here. I was going to move and I saw one show out here earlier on, and just as I was about to move, and it basically just stopped me from moving. I put 6 more or 8 more spoms out this morning. Didn't put any fishing rods out at all until I saw that fish show, and like I say, if I hadn't seen it I would be round the corner probably with zigs out like Daryl, but mate, what power, look at this. Unreal. Oh, big black scaly one. Backleads in the tip ring. Gonna have to be a bit creative with this. Come on, get in that net, get in that net. Yes, got him. Oh, that was lucky. Everything caught in the tip ring there. There was no way I was going to get that in any further. Oh. Oh, what a touch. What a touch. Where there's one, there is definitely more on here. Yes. Look at that. What an absolute lump of coal. Black as your hat. £20 2 ounces it went. I'm really chuffed to be off the mark after watching Daryl catch them, you know, and thinking it wasn't going to happen over that spot. It just shows you have to persist, keep your eyes open, and you will be rewarded. So I'm going to get him back now, get a few more spods out over the area before I recast, and get the rod back out as quickly as I can. You wouldn't believe I'd be getting bites, you know, at this time of the day in this sort of weather. This was on the shallower spot, so it was only about 5 or 6 foot deep here. You know, if I keep getting bites on one rod, I don't care, and it'll be nice to make the acquaintance of more of these absolutely lovely scaly blackness carp. While all this was happening, Daryl was still grafting, looking for fish to sling singles or zigs at. He'd done a complete lap with nothing concrete to go on, and as I relayed back what had happened for me, I was away again. Over that other line. No. Come on, get in that net. Yes. Reed under the arm. Fishing the net. That's the most unorthodox netting I've ever done. But number 2 off the baited area. Result. And look at the weather. You would never expect, let's get this reed off. You'd never ever expect that you would be getting bites off the bottom in this weather. And this is the deeper rod. That's the good thing. This is the deeper rod. This is probably in about 8-9 foot of water, something like that. The one that went before is in 5 or 6, I reckon. So 2 bites off the same baited area, and you know, there's plenty of time to go. And obviously this evening, I reckon it could get even better. Yeah, man. Nice. How about that? for a gorgeous, gorgeous common carp. 2212 this one. Absolutely perfect mouth on him. Got no idea where he came from, but I'm sure he's got a lot of growing in him. And when the syndicate is formed and loads of people put bait in, I'm sure all of these fish will grow substantially. But for now, I am one very happy man. The plan is working, and I'm sure there are more to come. The rig I'm using on this session, as always, is designed to exactly match what's out in the lake in front of me. And in this situation, we didn't know what we'd be casting onto, so the obvious thing was to start with a helicopter rig. And to be fair, that has proved to be the right way to go. A helicopter rig basically means that the hook link can slide back up the length of lead core as you cast out. The lead can go into soft bottom, or in this case weedy bottom, leaving the hook link presented on top. And having had a cast on the first day when I moved into this swim, I got two very lucky drops out there. I cast really close to the reeds and I got a good drop on both. But I still think there's a little bit of weed out there. When I've wound in, I've pulled a little bit of weed back. So having that bead a little bit further up and allowing everything to settle, I think just it guarantees it's presented that bit better than a lead clip or certainly an inline lead. And the lead core leader I'm using is quite short. It's the cable lead core. I make them myself. They're probably only about 2 feet long. And I try and keep that top bead as close to the lead as I possibly can, so there's as much connection with the lead as quickly as possible. And the lead itself is really important as well. Just enough to get me out there, so most of the time a 3 ounce lead or up to a 3.5 if there's a real heavy crosswind. That stops it wandering in the wind, and I'll either use a distance lead or one of the helicopter leads. They're really, really good because they're flat bottomed and they help you feel more as the lead hits the bottom. So you know if you're in that much weed or if you're in that much weed and the whole thing is snarled up completely. So that's really, really important. Feeling for the drop and knowing what your rig has landed on is absolutely key to getting bites. And at the bottom end of the lead core, I've got one of the heli safes. I am dumping the lead in this situation. You've seen the battles I've had have been really hairy. The fish have gone through loads of weed and I've really had to inch them back through. Having the lead come off really helps in that situation. It stops it getting snarled up in the weed. And once it's free of the weed, the fish comes up in the water that bit more with the lead not there. And the hook link I'm using is a really stiff material, one for anti-tangle and also two so it repels the weed. When it comes to rest, it sits on and in the weed rather than getting tangled up in it. That's really important to help the fish get the bait in their mouth. So it's 25 boom material. It's only about 5 or 6 inches long, because remember, it's sitting on top of whatever you're casting it onto. So you don't need a big long hook link to make sure your bait's presented. And I think a shorter hook link actually gets you more bites. And that's crimped at either end. So an 06 crimp, the smaller one, I've crimped a loop at one end, and basically that just clips onto a size 11 quick change ring swivel. I've got a little tiny 4mm bead that covers up that ring swivel just so there's no way the hook link can get back off it. And I've converted over to that. I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. I had loads of hook links in all different lengths, all connected to swivels permanently. Now I have a loop in the end of everything, just have a quick change swivel, just take one off and put another one on. It's so simple. I've halved the number of hook links in my tackle box just by fishing like that. At the other end, there's another loop crimped, but a much smaller loop, and on that loop is one of the spinner swivels, not with a ring on it, just the spinner swivel itself, just to reduce the amount of metal and the amount of weight. And then onto that spinner swivel, I've got a size 4 claw hook, which is a really long, quite big hook, which you wouldn't think would be ideal for this kind of situation. But because there's loads of fronds of weed coming up off the bottom, I didn't want a really short hook. I wanted something a bit longer to hold that pop up just that little bit higher up above the weed, so it's just a little bit more available to the fish. And that is what's produced both bites for me. The pop-ups I've used are 15 millers, but really importantly, I've dried them out for probably a month in the basement at home, and they've gone rock hard, but they've gone much smaller. I like them that little bit smaller than 15mm, 14, 13mm. I think the smaller the pop-up you can get away with, the more bites you get. They're both IB pop-ups. One's got the no-name goo on it, the other one's got the isotonic goo, and I've had bites on both. So I don't really think the attractors really matter that much. They're both really good attractors. That's the important point to stress. And the IB that's leaking out as well underneath it is a fantastic attractor as well. And the yellow colour, that sort of egg yolky yellow, I think is a great colour, especially when the water's clear. Sometimes with whites in clear water, you can be a bit too bright. Because I'm feeding corn and I'm feeding crumbed up boilie as well. I think that's sitting amongst it all. I think it's just that little bit more attractive, that little bit more visual without being spooky for the fish. And that's basically pulled onto one of the tiny little ring swivels with a bit of floss, and then basically I cut the floss off, burn it down, and just press it down with a lighter just to form sort of a stopper on it. There's no way that will come off when I'm casting 50, 60 yards or 100 yards, and it's so neat. And then the putty is put round the crimp that is closest to the hook, and I want my pop-up sinking fast. That's really important for me. If it hits a frond, if it sinks really slowly and hits a frond of weed, it can end up sitting up really high above everything else. I want it to find its way between the weed and just look like another bait that has just landed sort of in the weed, and the fish delve down into the weed, bang, and they don't even know it's a hook bait. So it's really important for me for it to sink fast, plenty of putty on there, and I just test it in the edge a few times before I cast it out, and then I know it's going to sit out there perfectly. The hooks themselves are sharpened just a little tiny bit. I don't make the points really fine in these conditions, just enough on the tip of the point to make it super sharp. So that's the rig I'm using in this particular situation, on reasonably clear ground with a little bit of weed around. It is so important to make sure that your rig suits the spot you're casting onto perfectly. And if you do that every single time you fish, your results will be really consistent.
This afternoon they've sort of popped up on the surface close to where we were when we first arrived, and just sort of kept my eye on them throughout the day, and they sort of just mingled around in the edge. Sort of, they're definitely on the cusp of spawning, you know, that's definitely on the cards. It's really hot, and started to see them sort of keep going over this shallow bit of ground on the back corner of an island. So I kept casting out there with the pop-up rigs, and eventually after 4 or 5 casts got a really nice drop in shallow ground. You know, when they're high in the water cruising around like that, you know, they're not likely to drop down into 8-10 foot of water and find the baits, but in that shallow water on that corner of the island I thought there was a good chance, and so it's proved. God, I think this lake's got massive potential for the future. I don't think they've been in here long, these fish, really, and it's crystal clear. Makes them nice and dark. That's a good fish, that is. Bosh! Get in there. Yes. Yes. Let's have a little look at what we got here. Well, I think this one's the biggest so far. Why? Oh, he's not quite. Well, he's the biggest so far, but not as big as I thought. Just over 28 and a half. Yeah, 28 and a half. Well, it has been an ultra busy day. Up at the crack of dawn looking for fish, tried a few different spots, had fish over my zigs, had fish in the edge, but just didn't manage to pull it off, and ended up exactly where I finished last night. A few fish loitering around the corner of the island, and got a really nice drop out there, and it's one of those drops that you just knew was going to go. And the biggest fish so far, 28 pounds, 28 and a half of absolutely lovely common carp. Look at this, can't beat this. Misty morning, carp on the end. I woke up this morning and saw a few fish showing, not loads. 1 or 2 in the deep water where the zig is, and 1 or 2 out on this road. Sort of look on Google Earth, you can see it's much shallower towards the far bank on a particular line, and they keep showing on it, you get much shallower drop. It's pretty weedy on that road, to be fair, like a mossy sort of green weed. So I've pushed the bead right up the line, right up the leg core leader, and as long as I get some form of drop, I'm happy that that's presented. Oh, hang on, he's going right across the zig. Here we go. Here we go. Wash. Get in there. Nice. 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 Well, the perfect start to the perfect carp angler's morning. The lake gently steaming as the mist just lifts off, and then the rod rattled off with this beautiful little common. Taking on a single yellow pop-up, coated in the new No Name goo, and I think with these relatively unpressured fish, crystal clear water, a yellow pop-up in the right place is all you need. Okay, so talking a little bit about my rig for this session, it's slightly different to what you would have seen me using normally. You know, a lot of people are using spinner rigs and Ronnie rigs these days, and you might be wondering why I'm not using that. And this rig, you could say, is a slip D or a multi-rig, or sort of a combination of both. So it's got the positives of the Ronnie rig, being able to quick change the hook, but it's slightly higher off the bottom. And I think when I'm fishing in sort of low-lying weeds, I think that's that extra little bit of height, you know, makes it more visible. I've still got the quick change ability, and I also like, with having that slightly taller pop-up, that the hook holes tend to be a little bit further back. You know, naturally as the fish comes down onto the bait, it's an inch or so off the bottom. I've automatically got that extra reach into the mouth. It's not a rig for a PVA bag. You can't hook on a stringer onto it, you can't hook on a mesh bag, because on that, as you go to cast, the slip D multi-rig style thing will pull tight and it will not be doing what it's designed to do. So it's a rig for casting a bait, not a mesh bag and not a stringer. With regard to could you use pop-ups, bottom baits and wafters, I would definitely say pop-ups, obviously, because I am, wafters as well, but I probably wouldn't recommend a bottom bait on it. It's not that you couldn't, but I haven't tried it and I wouldn't want to be sort of recommending it to someone. It might sort of land funny and not be sitting right.
So to tie this rig, the first thing you need to do is peel roughly 5 to 6 inches of the plastic coating from the coated braid. From there you need to form an overhand knot, commonly known as a granny knot, and then I would take the tag end and pass it through the back. Really important this, go through the back of that overhand knot, and you're going to create the size of the loop that you need for this rig. I would want it roughly an inch long, so if you see that, that's roughly an inch there. I would then wrap this around the main line of the hook link 2 times, just like a blood knot, so once, twice around there, and this time, rather than going through the back of the knot, we're going to go through the front of the knot. It's really important this, so you go through the front of the knot here, right through the centre like so, and then a little bit of saliva once you pulled that tight, and this will form the loop for your multi-rig. So from here I move the plastic coating back just a little bit, making just enough room for my split shot. I choose to use split shot over putty because it's just a little bit more convenient. To finish the boom section of this rig, I cut myself a 2.5cm piece of shrink tube. This is threaded onto the hook link before I tie the swivel on. Once the swivel is tied on, the shrink tube is brought back up to the swivel, passed over the knot, over the eye of the swivel and onto the barrel. I steam this over a kettle and it creates an anti-tangle sleeve. The next step is to cut down a large kicker like so. Once this is then threaded onto the loop, I take a size 4 wide gape X and I thread the loop through the front of the eye of the hook. Once I've done this, I then force the kicker over the eye of the hook to trap the hook link in place. From here, I'm going to put my hook ring swivel over the loop. I then pass the loop over the hook to complete the multi-rig. To get the correct size D, I pull on the hook link and it slides through the kicker, and you want the D to finish roughly level with the barb of the hook.
For this session, I don't know the lake very well, and I'm trying to fish in an opportunist manner. So I'm trying to locate fish and cast out amongst them without disturbing them. So I'm using quite often the lightest lead I can get away with, 1.5 ounces. So up to sort of 2.5 I've used on this session to get a little bit further out and when it's been windy and stuff. And I'm using a Ziploc lead shape. They tend, I know we're talking fractions here, but they do make less of a splash. That streamlined version, I don't use it to cast any further than a normal distance lead, but the Zip leads, they definitely, or the tournament leads as they're called, they land with less of a splash. So 1.5 ounces of them, they go down onto the weed quite lightly. I'm fishing, it's quite mossy weed in a lot of the spots, so I don't want to crash a big heavy lead down. It's coming down through the water on a tight line quite slowly, dragging the rig and the lead core, and it all just comes to rest nicely on the bottom.
My swim was definitely quiet after yesterday's action and I was getting itchy feet. Before the bites, I found an area just round the corner from me, opposite where Daryl was getting his evening bites. I'd noticed a few fish moving across the other end of the underwater road Daryl had caught from. After what felt like too many casts, I managed to find a nice clear spot no bigger than 2 yards across, so I baited it with the intention of jumping on it this morning. By flitting between both swims, I saw one show over the second baited area, and with it all marked up from yesterday, I was out on the money in no time.
Elstow, yeah.
Padawan to Jedi, come in Jedi.
What did you say, Jedi?
Yeah, I said Padawan, that's me, to Jedi, that's you.
And what's paddle arm?
Padawan, they're the little tiny learners that are trying to be a Jedi. They're about 7 years old, that's me, bruv.
Roger that, mate.
I was just letting you know, mate, the next big swim down, the one that someone's obviously been fishing a fair bit, I've seen 2 show now, sort of 3/4 of the way to the island. So I don't know how settled you are, where you are, but I know you always like to know what's going on.
So the next big swim to my left as I'm looking 2/3 of the way to the island from there.
Exactly that, mate. Have you seen any in front of you this morning showing?
Out where I caught that one on the Zig, I saw one show there. I saw one near your bait this morning, and I saw 3 sort of not showing, but like just below the surface. I could see see them bow waving, and they disappeared around the back of the island to my right.
Okay, so enough to keep you in the same place then for a little while.
Well, yeah, I wanted to have sort of rods in the water as quickly as possible, during the cooler part of the day, and that back of the island's shallower, much shallower, it's like probably 3 or 4 foot, and you'd think that you've got a chance there if one swims past a bright pop-up.
Yeah, mate, definitely. I still baited up the other spot last night, not quite as much bait because I don't think it really got fed on properly. Both the rigs came in perfect, so there's no reason why I shouldn't have caught one out there. I'm going to give it a few hours here. I'm proper Elstowing it up, tram lining it up. The boys down there would be well proud of me. Pop-ups on 2 and a slow sinker on the middle rod. If they turn back up, they're in trouble, as you say.
Good work, mate. I think, yeah, that shallow water is an obvious feature of that road as well. And if you've got it all baited, plumbed and nice on a nice clean spot, that's a really good chance.
With Dan's information logged, I kept my eyes in that direction, and without further action in my swim, I decided to move down there for a closer look. On arrival, one of the cameramen had spotted fish around the corner of the island, so without hesitation, I cast 2 pop-ups as close to the island as possible.
Got to take. Yeah. Yes. It's fully scaled. Look at that. This lake is going to be insane in years to come. It's already got loads of lovely fish in it. It's going to grow a little bit, and they will. Come on this time, all the way in, go on, yes, get in there. Well, this morning in my swim it was looking ultra quiet, nothing was going on. Scott the cameraman, he was up with the drone, having a look about, getting some general views of the lake, and he spotted a load of fish in the island margin. It was just a couple of swims down from where I was, so I moved up, 3 single pop-ups lashed out ultra tight to the island, like 1 or 2 foot off of the island in 1 or 2 foot of water, really, really shallow. And those single no-name goo pop-ups on those simple multi-rig slip Ds are doing the do.
With that lovely fully scaled just slipped back to the water, it was time to head back to my evening swim and see if there was just enough time to snare one more of these lake's amazing carp.
Take. After catching that fully scaled and recasting, it all went a bit quiet up there really. Couldn't see any fish, nothing cruising around, nothing jumping. Came down here for a little walk to the swim with a road in it where they've been seem to be getting out here in the mornings and evenings, and saw a few bow waving around. I thought it was worth a move, and so it's proved. Bosh. Get in there. Nice. Nice little common. Check that out. £22. Absolutely lovely. Caught cast on that shallow road again. It's been quite a productive spot for me that. It's the same fish that Dan caught, just over £22. And probably the last fish of the session.
What an amazing fishery this is. So interesting, so much to go at. It's been a very steep learning curve for both of us, and I'm really pleased that a variety of tactics has worked. Daryl being Daryl has moved about 800 times, He's just a human dynamo, that boy. It wears me out just watching him, but he is a real inspiration, and I think he's shown what you can do if you have got endless energy and you've got the right single hook baits and you're prepared to put them all over the place to get bites. And the baiting up has worked from my point of view, but only when the fish have come back onto me. And I've tried it in other spots around the lake, and whilst the fish have been there in the mornings, it's been very, very hard to get the rods out onto the spots without scaring the fish away. So I think in this situation, when it's really, really hot and a lot of the time very still, I think Daryl's moving approach and the single hook bait approach is definitely king. I'd love to come back personally and fish it when it's cooler, when the fish are out in open water, when they're coming to a baited area over and over. I think you could really build a hit of fish then. And the lake itself offers something for absolutely everybody, from fishing right under your feet, you know, out onto areas, you know, like gravel bars and stuff like that out in the lake. We've not even touched the top end of the lake, and there's loads and loads of features up there as well. So, you know, you're never going to get bored with this place. The fish are absolutely stunning. As usual, it's a joy to fish with Daryl, and I think it's going to make a lot of very, very happy anglers.